The manhwa opens near the Gold Coast, Australia, with a scene of a man holding a severely injured woman in his arms. As she lies there, her condition appears critical. This person is a team leader who pleads with her to hold on just a little longer, assuring her that emergency services are on the way. However, the woman, aware of her dire situation, expresses a sense of hopelessness. In a poignant moment, she requests him to take her teleportation skill, a revelation that catches him off guard. Confused, he questions what she means by this, prompting her to divulge knowledge about his hidden abilities, indicating that she knows more about him than he expected. Despite his sadness, he tells her she doesn't need to continue speaking, sensing the impending tragedy. With urgency, she insists he accept her skill so he can live on, understanding that she has little time left. Tragically, she succumbs to her injuries and dies in his arms. After the tragic death of the woman, Seonwoo, the team leader, becomes visibly flustered. He grits his teeth, overwhelmed by the situation and the gravity of her last request. In a moment of despair and regret, he apologizes softly, feeling the weight of his inability to save her. As he speaks, a powerful aura begins to envelop him. It's a manifestation of his unique ability. As he absorbs the black aura that emanates from the deceased woman, he screams in agony, the process of taking in her power being both intense and painful. This black aura is a representation of her teleportation skill, and as it flows into him, he interprets her earlier statement as claiming she knows everything. In truth, he is a carnivorous ability user who can absorb the powers of other metahumans. She urges him to live on. After the transfer is complete, Seonwoo gently lays her body on the ground, a final act of respect for the woman who sacrificed so much for him. In this moment of quiet reflection, he recognizes the gravity of his new abilities and the burden he carries. With a heavy heart, he prepares to move on from the scene, determined to carry her memory with him. Seonwoo then activates the teleportation skill he just acquired from her, enveloped in a flash of energy as he disappears from the Gold Coast location. It's all started as a hole appeared in the sky. From the hole, many beasts that weren't from this world came pouring out. As a result, millions of people around the world either died or got injured, and those who remained were separated from their families or became refugees. Powerful countries tried to suppress the situation with their strong military powers, but against the power of the beasts, the humans were helpless. Humans were chased by beasts and had to avoid or hide from them. Famine and terror reigned everywhere. People sensed the end of the world. However, it has been 3 years since the cataclysm. That's when the metahumans appeared. They were able to kill the special monsters that even the powerful countries were unable to with their military forces, and the number of them gradually increased. That was the start of the humans' counterattack. The metahumans joined forces to create a safety zone. This safety zone was called a city. The people living in the city were able to enjoy affluent lives again, just like they had before the monsters appeared. But on the other hand, there were still non-safety zones called the wilderness. People in the wilderness were living with the violence of anarchy and continued to live with the fear of death. The world was separated into safety zones and non-safety zones. In the wilderness of Seoul, a group of metahumans was on a quest for something. The leader questions the guide about their progress and confirms the guide's claim of being a normal human before asking for his name. The guide introduced himself as Kim Seonwoo. Kim Seonwoo urged the group to look up, revealing that they had entered the territory of the brass spiders. The sight of dead bodies suspended in webs shocked the group. He explained that the 19th class brass spiders were relatively easy to hunt, outlining a strategy. First, they should sever all 8 legs, then decapitate the creature, and finally collect its body. Seonwoo advised starting with the front legs, as they were crucial for the spider's attacks. He warned them to be particularly cautious of the white spider webs that could shoot from the spider's mouth, noting that this fatal attack could instantly decapitate anyone caught off guard. The group leader acknowledged Kim Seonwoo's advice with a mix of frustration and respect, admitting that there was no point in trying to appear tough in front of metahumans. Seonwoo acknowledged the leader's previous achievement of defeating the 18th class bearded salamander and apologized for any perceived disrespect. Suddenly, a spider emerged and launched its web at the leader. Seonwoo quickly noticed the threat and shouted for the leader to move, but he didn't move at all. Seonwoo pushed him out of harm's way, also dodging the web himself. After the close call, Seonwoo admonished the leader for his inaction, urging him to take cover. Though visibly nervous upon seeing the massive spider, the leader regained his composure and commanded his group to get into position for the confrontation. While leader sweating and questioning if this was a 19th class, Kim Seonwoo noticed the spider preparing to strike again, while the rest of the group remained inactive. He shouted urgently for them to dodge, but as he did, the spider launched a web attack that instantly decapitated one of the metahumans. The gruesome sight of the severed head landing near him caused the leader to freeze in fear and collapse to the ground. Seonwoo, frustrated, yelled at the group to stop standing idly by. Internally, he reflected on the situation, realizing that the attack squad skill level was far below what he had been led to believe. He recalled his senior's assurances that they were a competent attack squad that had previously defeated an 18th class creature, and she claimed all he had to do was guide them to success for a good payout. Seonwoo felt betrayed, realizing that those claims were misleading. As the spider readied to attack once more, he quickly alerted the group, warning them that it was coming again. The leader quickly charged at the spider, blocking its attack with his sword, though he soon began to tremble from the sheer force behind the strike. In desperation, he unleashed his ability, generating an electric attack against the creature. Observing this, Kim Seonwoo realized that the leader had an electrical ability and noted that at least their status as metahumans was accurate. Stunned by the electric assault, the spider collapsed to the ground. Seizing the opportunity, the leader ordered his teammates to attack. They surrounded the spider and launched an assault from all sides, but Seonwoo was horrified to see them targeting the body instead of the legs. He shouted for them to cut off the spider's legs first, but his warnings went unheeded. Enraged, the spider retaliated, striking one of the metahumans and sending him crashing into a wall where a metal rod impaled him, killing him instantly. This horrific sight fueled the leader's anger, prompting him to charge at the spider once more. He swung his sword, but the spider easily blocked the attack with one of its front legs and used another to stab the leader, inflicting a serious injury. In pain, the leader dropped his sword and let out a loud scream. Just as the spider prepared to devour him, the leader gathered his resolve, tapping into his electric ability once again to strike at the spider in a desperate bid for survival. The spider, feeling the effects of the electric attack, violently threw the leader aside, sending him crashing to the ground a short distance away from Kim Seonwoo. Witnessing this, Seonwoo felt a surge of frustration and anger as he gritted his teeth in dismay. He mentally grappled with the situation, realizing that the attack squad was made up entirely of inexperienced members. With most of the team either dead or incapacitated, he found himself as the last one standing. Overwhelmed by the chaos, Seonwoo questioned how everything had spiraled out of control so quickly. He had only intended to serve as a guide, not to engage in a life-or-death battle. In Wilderness Area 17, a person informed Kim Bizik, the branch manager of Node Area 17, that Beatrice had taken down another target. Bizik acknowledged the report, saying he would send someone to handle the situation. Meanwhile, Jamie, the receptionist at the Node Area 17 exchange, was checking her skin while looking in the mirror. At that moment, Kim Bizik emerged from his office and called for Jamie. He instructed her to notify Chance's hunter team to come to the exchange center. When Jamie asked if it was regarding the frequent barrier repairs, Bizik confirmed her suspicion, expressing his confusion over what was happening. Jamie, sensing something was off, hesitated before addressing him as branch manager. Bizik clarified that he was merely thinking aloud and then inquired about Kim Seonwoo's status. Jamie informed him that Seonwoo was currently guiding the brass spider hunting team. Kim Bizik remarked that it was just a brass spider and expressed surprise that the team had not finished their task long ago. As he left, he reassured himself that Kim Seonwoo would be fine, instructing Jamie to inform Seonwoo to prepare for his return and to stop fixating on the mirror. Jamie confirmed his instructions, but noted that the hunters Seonwoo was guiding were all inexperienced. Bizik then asked what rank they had submitted for. Meanwhile, the scene shifted to the brass spider's lair, where Seonwoo stood before the creature, reflecting on the dire situation. As the spider prepared to launch another web attack, Seonwoo reached into his pocket and pulled out a gun, reminding himself that he was just supposed to be a guide for the team. The spider then unleashed its web, but Seonwoo skillfully dodged it by flipping through the air. Upon landing, he immediately aimed his gun at the spider and fired, prompting the group leader to smile mockingly and claim that the bullets would be ineffective. Seonwoo retorted to the leader, telling him to shut up and watch. And upon impact, the bullet struck the spider's body, resulting in a massive explosion that severely injured the creature. The leader, surprised, exclaimed that Seonwoo was using core bullets and questioned why he hadn't employed such powerful ammunition earlier, before the team had suffered casualties. Seonwoo, visibly frustrated, chastised the leader for his lack of self-awareness, stating that if the team had possessed the skills they claimed in their submitted ranks, none of this would have happened. He expressed his disdain for having to waste a valuable core bullet on a situation created by incompetent teammates, asserting that even a non-metahuman could take down a rank 19 creature with the right equipment and experience. He then brandished his dagger and charged at the spider, emphasizing his extensive experience as a guide on numerous hunts. As he approached, Seonwoo plunged his dagger into the spider's leg, causing it to scream in agony. Seizing the moment, he swiftly severed the spider's leg, then quickly shifted his focus to the other legs, cutting them as well until the spider crashed to the ground. Turning to the leader, he reiterated his earlier instructions, to attack the legs first and then the head. With that, he raised his dagger and launched an attack on the spider's head, declaring, "Like this." Seeing Seonwoo effortlessly hunt down the brass spider, the leader became flustered that a mere human could achieve such a feat while his team had failed. After delivering repeated strikes to the spider's head, Seonwoo finally killed the creature. He then confronted the leader, expressing his disdain for the way they had trembled in fear before a creature that was barely considered large. Seonwoo accused him of submitting fake rank papers to the exchange center, pointing out that the rank 18 bearded salamander only shed its skin once a year, implying that the leader was merely pretending to have hunted it using a skin he had scavenged. Seonwoo commended the leader's audacity, noting that despite the dire circumstances, no one had run away while the team was dying, and he was impressed by the leader's resolve to hold the spider's front leg and strike back even after being severely injured. He suggested that instead of forging rank papers, the leader should have focused on honing his skills. Although Seonwoo acknowledged that the leader likely had his reasons for resorting to deception, he warned him about the consequences of tricking Node. The group leader laughed off the warning, admitting that he was aware it was a felony. Seonwoo expressed his frustration, stating that he wished he had the authority to execute him right then and there. Just then, Seonwoo heard a voice in his head urging him to kill the leader. The leader, realizing his precarious state, noted that waiting for Node to dispose of him would be difficult, and he ultimately succumbed to death. As the leader died, Seonwoo was left bewildered by the voice he had heard, pondering whether he had misheard it. He let out a sigh of relief, trying to shake off the unsettling experience. Then Seonwoo reflected on his earlier conversation with Jamie. He recalled her claiming that the attack team had successfully taken down a rank 18 creature. He felt a surge of anger at the realization that he had been misled into believing he could easily earn money by guiding them. Frustrated, he cursed Jamie for her deception. Later, upon returning to the exchange center, he shouted Jamie's name, confronting her with indignation for placing him in a situation with such incompetent teammates. Jamie attempted to calm him down, noting that it wasn't like him to be so agitated. Seonwoo acknowledged that she was right, but insisted on the seriousness of the situation, prompting a nervous laugh from her. He pressed on, questioning how the branch manager could fail to distinguish between a freshly shed skin and one that had actually been hunted. Jamie defended herself, stating that they had all been deceived by the attack team's plans to trick them. Seonwoo informed her that there would be no fee for her in the commission this time, and demanded that she provide him with all pertinent information about his clients moving forward. Jamie hesitated, reminding him that breaking Node's rules regarding client confidentiality could lead to serious repercussions. Seonwoo countered that if they couldn't provide that information, she needed to find a way to make it happen. Jamie pleaded with him to let it go this one time, promising to be more cautious in the future. Just then, two people approached them, and Seonwoo expressed his exhaustion, lamenting that if it weren't for the branch manager, he would have already severed ties with Area 17. Jamie reminded Seonwoo that even if he didn't mean it, the metahumans were particularly sensitive due to the guides frequently moving through the areas. Flustered, Seonwoo snapped back, expressing his frustration with the constant emphasis on metahumans and their issues. He questioned the point of worrying about how one might die if it was going to happen regardless, whether at the hands of a beast or a hunter. As he recalled the leader's ability, Seonwoo felt a wave of bitterness, lamenting that if he had even a mediocre power like that scammer hunter, he could have used it far more effectively. His thoughts were abruptly interrupted when someone punched him, sending him crashing to the ground. Before he could regain his footing, the assailant seized him by the neck and lifted him off the ground. The metahuman, Kim Seonwoo, confronted Seonwoo with a taunt, expressing excitement at finally meeting the renowned guide and suggesting he could do Seonwoo a favor by killing him. Seonwoo glared back angrily, not backing down from the provocation. Seonwoo remarked on the audacity reflected in Seonwoo's eyes, but their exchange was interrupted by a girl who stepped in. The girl, Park Eun-jong, asserted that anyone associated with Node could act as a representative of the guild and utilize Node's name when necessary. She reminded Seonwoo that any actions intended to harm Node members would be considered an attack on Node itself. As a 17th class hunter with the ability of vision reinforcement, Eunjong was keenly aware of the rules governing their guild. After the destruction, Node was the only guild that worked to maintain peace within the lands called the Wilderness. They worked to create a safe place for humanity to survive and received requests such as demonic beast hunting. Eunjong pointed out that for a metahuman Node member to attack a non-metahuman Node member could lead to serious consequences, questioning Seonwoo's willingness to face punishment for such actions. Hearing this, as a 17th class hunter with the ability of physical reinforcement, Seonwoo became visibly flustered, realizing the implications of his behavior. Kim Seonwoo was released by Kim Seonwoo, causing him to collapse onto the ground, drenched in sweat and gasping for breath. Concerned, Eunjong approached and asked if he was okay. Seonwoo reassured her, saying he is fine, Hunter Eunjong. Eunjong then turned to Seonwoo, questioning the need for him to act so mighty and create a scene. Just then, another individual arrived, introducing himself as Jong Chansu, the leader of Team Marlin Hunter in Area 17. He addressed both Seonwoo and Eunjong, stating that the branch manager was waiting for them, and included Seonwoo in the invitation. Seonwoo was surprised to be summoned by the team leader, thinking to himself that everyone from Team Marlin must have been gathered for an important reason. A short while later, they convened in the branch manager's office, where Jong Chansu informed Seonwoo that they had received a request from Guangyang to help protect the barriers. Seonwoo immediately deduced that she must have passed out again. Chansu confirmed his suspicion, explaining that until she was able to heal, they had been asked to act as bait to draw attention away from the barriers. Kim Seonwoo expressed disbelief at the recurring nature of the requests, mentioning that while he hadn't personally dealt with it, he had heard more stories about such missions lately. Jong Chansu explained that the situation seemed dire, noting that she had been overexerting herself and had been unable to sleep recently. Seonwoo reacted cynically, suggesting that the people should protect their own land instead of relying on them, implying that they were not their slaves. Branch manager Bizik intervened, acknowledging the desperation of the situation and highlighting the unusual conditions tied to the request. When Seonwoo inquired about these conditions, Bizik revealed that the requesters were offering citizenship as a reward for their assistance. This news left Seonwoo momentarily speechless. Jong Chansu noted the gravity of the situation, remarking on the significance of offering their strict citizenship as a reward, indicating how desperate the requesters must be. Seonwoo then raised his hand, volunteering to participate in the mission. Jong Chansu agreed, encouraging him to do his best once again. Eunjong also expressed her desire to join, excited at the prospect of visiting the famed city she had heard about in stories. When Kim Seonwoo questioned her motivations, she told him to shut up. In a surprising turn, Seonwoo then raised his hand as well, stating that if citizenship was at stake, he would also join to assist them. Jong Chansu concluded the meeting by instructing all members of Team Marlin to prepare for their mission and to gather at the southwest exit gate the next day at 6 o'clock. The team members agreed to the plan. That night, Seonwoo sat down to write in his diary, reflecting on Guangyang, one of the largest cities rebuilt after the world's destruction. He noted the presence of a core energy field at the city's edge, which served to keep demonic beasts at bay. This barrier, maintained by a high-class metahuman named Beatrice for decades, had become unstable due to her declining health. Seonwoo understood the urgency of their mission. They needed to ensure the barrier remained intact until Beatrice could recover. He considered the potential disaster that could unfold if an S-class demonic beast attacked during her healing process, acknowledging that even the city's majority metahuman population would be overwhelmed. Seonwoo criticized the city for its hypocrisy. After previously disregarding the wilderness dwellers, they were now desperately seeking their help to protect their citizens from danger. The next morning at 6 o'clock, the team gathered to prepare for their mission. Jong Chansu asked Seonwoo if they would be taking the same route as their previous journey. Seonwoo explained that the environment had changed significantly since then and mentioned rumors of a 5th-class demonic beast, the bearded gargoyle, being sighted in the area. Chansu expressed concern, acknowledging that even he would find a 5th-class beast challenging to handle. Seonwoo assured him that as a 10th-class physical reinforcement metahuman, Chansu would be capable of dealing with threats, so he planned a route that would avoid demonic beasts above the 11th class. He indicated they would need to take a detour through an area known for 15th class demonic stag beetles, but Chansu remained confident in his ability to manage them. With the route discussed and agreed upon, Seonwoo led the team as they set off toward Guangyang City. As they traveled, he suddenly noticed something suspicious in their surroundings and signaled for his teammates to hold still. Kim Seonwoo noticed Seonwoo's sudden seriousness and asked what was wrong. Seonwoo requested quiet as he crouched down to examine a fresh footprint on the ground. Eun-jong, curious, inquired if it was a print from a demonic beast. Seonwoo clarified that he needed to investigate further and asked Eun-jong to use her vision reinforcement ability to scan the area. Eun-jong promptly activated her ability and asked which direction to focus on. Seonwoo directed her toward an area where the sand clouds were turbulent. After using her ability, Eun-jong reported that she couldn't see anything noteworthy beyond the clouds. Kim Seonwoo approached, urging Seonwoo to reveal what was causing the tension. Seonwoo revealed that they were dealing with a hobgoblin horde, which shocked the group. He explained that the horde had passed through the area within the last 15 minutes, and, due to their keen sense of smell, they had likely detected the team and changed direction to pursue them. Eun-jong confirmed this, using her ability again and asserting that the hobgoblins were indeed coming for them. Seonwoo acknowledged the threat, while Jong Chansu expressed his confidence in Seonwoo's guidance. Seonwoo emphasized the need to limit the hobgoblins' path, pointing out that 2 out of the 4 team members were not combat ready. Jong Chansu asked if there was anything nearby they could utilize, to which Seonwoo mentioned a bridge to the north. Turning to Seonwoo, Seonwoo requested that he carry Eun-jong, and the group began to run toward the bridge. Seonwoo was surprised by Seonwoo's commanding tone, but noticed Eun-jong found it impressive. She encouraged Seonwoo to run faster, prompting him to pick up speed while he in response jokingly acknowledging her. As they ran, a horde of hobgoblins pursued them, adding urgency to their escape. As they ran toward the bridge, Seonwoo continuously glanced back to gauge the distance between their group and the pursuing horde of hobgoblins. He contemplated the nature of the threat. The hobgoblins were classified as an 18th class beast, weaker individually than a 19th class brass spider, but dangerous in numbers due to their strong teamwork. This group mentality made them formidable, particularly in open areas where engaging them could overwhelm even skilled metahumans. Seonwoo analyzed the team's composition: 2 17th class metahumans, but only one was combat skilled, while the other had 10th class combat abilities. He concluded that while the situation was risky, it wasn't hopeless. The bridge they were approaching was approximately 4 meters wide and 6 to 7 meters high. If Jong Chansu and Kim Seonwoo could effectively defend the center of the bridge, they had a good chance of fending off the hobgoblins. Upon reaching the bridge, the team continued running until they reached its center, where Seonwoo called for a halt. He instructed Jong Chansu and Kim Seonwoo to take their positions in the middle of the bridge to face the incoming horde, to which Jong Chansu agreed. Seonwoo then declared that he would handle the rear flank. Eun-jong, uncertain about her role, asked what she should do. Seonwoo's internal thoughts revealed his concern about her being a potential liability. Given her status as a non-combat metahuman, he recognized that protecting her during the battle would distract the 2 combatants, potentially compromising their focus and effectiveness against the hobgoblins. To mitigate this risk, he decided that it would be best for Eun-jong to avoid engaging in the fight altogether. Seonwoo instructed Eun-jong to get behind him for protection, solidifying his role as her defender, while Jong Chansu and Kim Seonwoo took their positions to confront the horde of hobgoblins. As the 2 skilled metahumans prepared for battle, Seonwoo reflected on his concerns regarding their capabilities. He considered Jong Chansu's reputation as a prominent figure in the 17th district, yet he had never witnessed the team leader's skills in action firsthand. Additionally, he noted that both Kim Seonwoo and Eun-jong were recent additions to Team Marlin, which left uncertainties about their abilities and support skills. Until they overcame these variables, Seonwoo felt he couldn't let his guard down. When the hobgoblin horde charged toward them, Jong Chansu unleashed his power, executing a powerful slash that instantly eliminated several hobgoblins. His agility and ferocity allowed him to leap forward, effectively dispatching more of the advancing enemies. Similarly, Kim Seonwoo activated his ability to engage the hobgoblins approaching his side of the bridge, showcasing his combat prowess. Watching both combatants decimate the horde, Seonwoo momentarily reconsidered his earlier worries, thinking to himself that perhaps he had overestimated the threat. Their display of skill was impressive, as they were effectively thinning out the numbers of the attackers. However, amidst the chaos, a hobgoblin managed to sneak behind Seonwoo and Eun-jong. It yanked Eun-jong's hair, causing her to crash to the ground and cry out for help. Hearing her distress, Seonwoo immediately turned around to assess the situation, while Kim Seonwoo, alerted by the commotion, also glanced back to ask what had happened. Seonwoo, realizing the imminent danger, urgently commanded Kim Seonwoo to focus on the front instead of reacting to Yeonjong's plight. Flustered, Kim Seonwoo retorted, expressing frustration at being ordered around. At that moment, the hobgoblin that had sneaked up on them was poised to strike Eunjong with its axe. Seonwoo reacted swiftly, grabbing Eunjong and pulling her toward him, narrowly saving her from the axe's blade, which only managed to clip her hair. Both Seonwoo and Eunjong rolled away from the hobgoblin, creating some distance. They quickly regained their footing, with Seonwoo adopting a fighting stance and drawing his dagger. He mentally resolved that he could not rely on his teammates for support in this situation and needed to handle the threat himself. As the hobgoblin charged at him, Seonwoo swung his dagger, but the creature dodged. However, he managed to follow up with another strike that connected, knocking the hobgoblin back slightly and causing its helmet to fall off. The strike stunned the hobgoblin momentarily, but it quickly retaliated, raising its axe for a counterattack. Seonwoo narrowly evaded the strike by rolling backward. Before he could fully recover, the hobgoblin advanced, raising its axe once more. In a surprising turn, Eunjong stabbed the hobgoblin with her own dagger, causing it to recoil in pain. Taking advantage of the hobgoblin's disorientation and the chaos of battle, Seonwoo tripped the creature as it attempted to flee. He then swiftly cut off the hobgoblin's head as it fell, ensuring that the threat was neutralized. Just as Seonwoo dispatched the hobgoblin, Kim Seonwoo and Jong Chansu finished off the remaining members of the horde and rushed to the rear to regroup. Breathing heavily and trembling, Seonwoo glanced at his hands, still shaking from the adrenaline of the fight. Kim Seonwoo approached him, critiquing Seonwoo's decision to focus on the hobgoblin instead of guarding Eunjong. In response, Eunjong vehemently defended Seonwoo, countering that it was Kim Seonwoo's failure to eliminate the hobgoblin that had put them in danger. Kim Seonwoo expressed frustration about hobgoblin re-emerging during the fight, stating that he was trying to assist but had been told by Seonwoo to focus on the front. Jong Chansu praised Seonwoo's decision, recognizing the importance of not dividing their attention during the battle. He then checked on Seonwoo, asking if he was okay. Although Seonwoo assured them he was fine, he internally wrestled with feelings of failure for not adequately protecting Hunter Eunjong, realizing he needed help during the fight. Jong Chansu suggested they should hurry, fearing that more demonic beasts might appear. However, Seonwoo reassured the group, explaining that the presence of numerous low-class beasts meant that stronger ones were likely not nearby, allowing them to proceed without immediate concern. As they continued their journey, Seonwoo suddenly stopped, prompting Kim Seonwoo to impatiently inquire if they had arrived at their destination. Ignoring the question, Seonwoo hurried ahead, which frustrated Kim Seonwoo even more. Seonwoo climbed onto a ruined building and commanded the others to follow him up, but Kim Seonwoo noted that Seonwoo was being unresponsive. Once they all reached the top, Seonwoo turned to them and revealed the breathtaking sight of the Guangyang Dome, a big city they had never encountered before, leaving both Eunjong and Kim Seonwoo in awe of its grandeur. As the group arrived at the barrier encircling the city, Eunjong was captivated by the sight and hesitated, contemplating whether to touch it. Just as she gathered the courage to reach out, Kim Seonwoo unexpectedly grabbed her hand and pulled it through the barrier without any resistance. Eunjong was shocked by the sensation, her eyes wide in disbelief. Kim Seonwoo chuckled, teasing her reaction. This only fueled Yeonjong's frustration as she retorted angrily, "Seriously, what would you do if she had a heart attack?" Jong Chansu interjected, reminding her that she hadn't actually felt anything harmful, prompting Eunjong to respond, "Yes, to the point it felt strange." Curious, Kim Seonwoo decided to test the barrier himself and found his hand pass through just as easily. He questioned its effectiveness, asking, "Does this really block the demonic beasts?" Jong Chansu reassured him, explaining that the barrier had successfully protected the city for over 10 years, so they could trust its power. With that, the group prepared to enter the barrier. Upon reaching the city gate, they were met by guards who instructed them to stop and present identification. Jong Chansu stepped forward, providing his identity card. He introduced himself as the leader of Node 17's Team Marlin and handed over his card for scanning. After the guard verified the information, he handed them bracelets, instructing each member to take one and wear it. After donning these bracelets, Eunjong remarked on its aesthetic appeal, comparing it to a core bracelet. The guard informed them that the barrier defense operation was set to begin at 7 a.m. the next day and that temporary accommodations would be provided at the public exercise facility. He cautioned them that after sunset, they were not permitted to leave their accommodations, as citizens tended to get anxious when wilderness people roamed the streets at night. Kim Seonwoo broke the silence by questioning the consequences of disobeying this rule. The guard ominously replied that those who roamed would lose a hand, and warned that attempting to forcibly remove the bracelet would result in an explosion, prompting both Kim Seonwoo and Eun-jong to react in shock. Kim Seonwoo expressed his discomfort, stating he didn't like the idea of a wrist bomb. The guard then instructed them to enter the city. As they proceeded, Seonwoo contemplated the purpose of the barrier, reflecting that a thin, energy barrier should suffice for keeping demonic beasts at bay. However, the thick barrier symbolized their exclusionary stance toward wilderness people. Inside the city, both Kim Seonwoo and Eun-jong were visibly amazed by the vibrant scene. Jong Chon-soo pointed out that it was Eun-jong and Kim Seonwoo's first visit to such a place, welcoming them to the city. They observed people leisurely sitting, some enjoying drinks while others engaged in reading newspapers, creating a stark contrast to the wilderness they were accustomed to. Eun-jong voiced her astonishment at how different the atmosphere felt even after just a few meters of walking, prompting Jong Chon-soo to share his own initial impressions upon arriving in a city. He then turned to Seonwoo, asking if he intended to head straight to the exercise facility. Seonwoo informed Jong Chon-soo and Kim Seonwoo of his intention to explore the city for useful items. Jong Chon-soo agreed to meet him later at the accommodations, while Kim Seonwoo jokingly warned him not to return without a hand. As Seonwoo ventured deeper into the city, he noted its tranquility, which felt almost surreal to him. He stumbled upon an antique shop and pulled the door open. Just as he was about to enter, a girl carrying a stack of boxes rushed out, accidentally dropping her identification card. Seonwoo quickly picked it up, intending to return it, but the girl was already gone before he could call out to her. After collecting various items he deemed necessary, Seonwoo approached the counter where an old man was stationed. Noticing the goggles among his purchases, the shopkeeper inquired about Seonwoo's intentions for them. Seonwoo asked for the total price, and the shopkeeper confirmed he would only accept core currency, stating he doesn't accept scrap metal. Seonwoo agreed, and then noticed a stun grenade displayed in the shop. Curious, he asked the shopkeeper about it. The shopkeeper explained that it was a magic bomb akin to a flashbang. When the pin was removed, it would explode upon being thrown, creating a blinding flash. Seonwoo was surprised by this information and questioned the legality of selling such devices to civilians. The shopkeeper reassured him that it was not classified as a weapon because it wasn't lethal, although he warned that if it detonated too close, it would leave the person unable to see for a brief period. Intrigued, Seonwoo then asked where can he use it? The shopkeeper responded to Seonwoo's inquiry about the stun grenade, explaining that the demand for such items varied based on the user's intent. He mentioned that the grenade was manufactured specifically because there were people interested in buying it. Just then, the girl who had hurried out of the shop earlier reappeared, calling out for her entrance card. The shopkeeper claimed he hadn't seen it, but Seonwoo pulled out card he had previously picked up and asked, "Is this yours?" The girl immediately expressed her gratitude as Seonwoo returned her card, though she seemed a bit nervous in her response. After regaining her composure, she noticed Seonwoo's attire and asked if he was from the wilderness. She then offered tailored assistance, assuming he was a metahuman. Seonwoo clarified to her that he was not a metahuman, which surprised her. Intrigued, she examined him closely and took his hand to assess his abilities, asking whether he had heightened vision or hearing, since he didn't seem to possess super strength. Seonwoo, feeling uncomfortable with her probing, interrupted her and gently pulled his hand away, asking her to wait. Realizing her assertiveness, she apologized, admitting she had become too focused on her assessment. Despite her apology, she expressed her confusion, insisting that she sensed a signal indicating he might actually be a metahuman. Seonwoo was left perplexed by the girl's comments about sensing a signal indicating he might be a metahuman. Before he could respond, her phone rang, prompting her to excuse herself from the conversation and answer the call, saying yes, team leader, as she moved away. Seonwoo felt confused by the exchange, particularly her mention of him, a metahuman. After completing his purchases, including the stun grenade, Seonwoo returned to the accommodation, still pondering the girl's words. He thought back to his desire to become a metahuman, something he had longed for deeply. In the past, he had researched signs of awakening and methods to attain metahuman abilities, but he ultimately realized he did not possess them. He had come to terms with this reality and had committed himself to his role as a guide. However, the girl's assertion that he might be a metahuman unsettled him. He reflected on how he had given up hope, only for someone to suggest otherwise. Seonwoo tried to push the thoughts aside, realizing that letting them distract him could interfere with his work the following day. The next morning, he found himself at the city gate, where a significant number of metahumans had gathered from various regions of the wilderness. As the countdown to deactivate the barrier reached its final moments, Seonwoo declared, "Then he will make survival the ultimate goal like last time." Jang Chansu responded with agreement, saying, "All right, they will trust and follow him." An announcement was made, 8 seconds until the barrier is deactivated. The countdown progressed, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and with the announcement, "Barrier Defense Plan, activate," the barrier vanished, and the hunters surged out of the city. Almost immediately, they were met with chaos as a horde of giant bee monsters descended upon them, attacking relentlessly. The air filled with screams of horror as some hunters fell victim to the swarm. Seonwoo, Kim Seong-hoo, and Eun Jong exchanged worried glances, instinctively looking back to assess the situation. Jang Chansu urged them to look forward and run, emphasizing the need to stay focused and escape. Seonwoo quickly assessed their route and said they will go this way, signaling a direction to avoid the chaos. While some hunters engaged the giant bees, attempting to fend them off, Jang Chansu's team focused on escaping the mayhem. Amidst the turmoil, one desperate hunter sprinted towards the city gate, pleading, "Residents or whatever, he will give it up. Let him back in." But the guards stood firm, weapons drawn, blocking his path. The hunter commanded the guards to move aside, asking what they were doing. In a swift and brutal response, the guards executed him and another hunter behind him who had also been trying to reach the safety of the gates, illustrating the harsh reality of their situation. As she witnessed the chaos unfold, Eun-jong turned to Jang Chansu in shock, asking if he had seen what happened. He urged her not to look back and to focus on their escape. Meanwhile, Seonwoo's mind raced as he realized the grim truth of their situation. The city had deliberately sent them out as bait to draw the demonic beast's attention while the barrier was down, not because the hunters within were weak, but as a strategic maneuver. Eun-jong sensed danger and alerted the group about a herd of beasts approaching from the northwest. Seonwoo quickly ordered them to stop and hold their position. Kim Seong-hoo asked for clarification, and Seonwoo explained that a rank 9 raptor pack was expected to be approaching them based on predictions. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Kim Seong-hoo asked Jang Chansu how they would fight. Seonwoo pointed out that a single rank 9 raptor could easily defeat a pack of goblins, emphasizing that fighting would be pointless. Frightened, Eun-jong then asked what they should do. Without hesitation, Seonwoo distributed the swimming goggles and pipes he had purchased the previous day, urging them to take one. He donned a pair himself and demonstrated their next move by entering a nearby pond. "We hide our bodies like this," he instructed, submerging himself in the water, leaving only the pipe visible above the surface. Eun-jong expressed her discomfort, but recognizing there was no alternative, the group followed Seonwoo's lead. One by one, they entered the pond, donning their goggles and pipes, submerging themselves completely while only their breathing apparatuses remained visible above the water. As Seonwoo remained submerged in the pond, he reflected on the harsh reality. The skilled fighters in the cities were more than capable of dealing with the raptors, but for the mercenaries like them, survival was the only priority. Not long after, the menacing raptors appeared, launching a brutal attack on the mercenary hunters in the area, leaving chaos in their wake while all of them remained safely underwater. After a tense period of waiting, Seonwoo finally surfaced to check their surroundings. Relieved to see that the raptors had not noticed them, he let out a sigh as he took in the grim sight of the dead bodies of other hunters scattered around. He called out to his teammates, urging them to exit the water. Kim Seong-hoo emerged, asking did they all pass. Seonwoo confirmed, yes, the hunters who encountered the raptor pack probably all died to it. They need to follow their tracks. They're very aggressive, so there likely won't be any other beasts. Let's find a good hiding spot. With that, they set off to track the raptor horde. As night descended, the group found refuge in the remains of a destroyed building. Kim Seong-hoo voiced his impatience, inquired when will this end. Jang Chansu replied no clue. It took hours last time, so it might be the same this time. They can't do anything but wait for the signal. Suddenly, Seonwoo's instincts kicked in, and he shot up from his seat, sensing something was off. Kim Seong-hoo asked what's wrong. Just then, Eun-jong swiftly turned off their light, casting them into darkness. Both Kim Seong-hoo and Jang Chansu instinctively unsheathed their weapons, preparing for whatever threat might be lurking nearby. Jang Chansu questioned Seonwoo. Do he see something? Seonwoo indicated that he didn't see anything but felt that something was off, as all eyes turned toward a gate at the far end of the room, heightened tension filling the air as they braced for potential danger. As they remained on high alert, Jang Chansu noted the eerie calmness around them, asking why it felt so quiet. Seonwoo urged him to be cautious and told him to wait. Their focus was fixed on the gate when Seonwoo finally caught sight of the monster approaching. Jong Chansu, initially unaware, began to feel a growing sense of unease as he noted the shift in atmosphere. Then, as the creature drew nearer, the glowing eyes of the monster pierced through the darkness, prompting Jong Chansu to react swiftly. He commanded Seonwoo and Eunjong, "Get in the back," prioritizing their safety. As the monster emerged into the dim light, Seonwoo's shock was palpable. "It's a black mantis," he exclaimed, a cold sweat breaking out across his face. The sight of the massive creature, with its menacing form and razor-sharp appendages, struck fear into their hearts. Jong Chansu questioned Seonwoo's alarm at the sight of the black mantis, asking why he was so shocked. Seonwoo explained that it was a large flying, demonic beast resembling a praying mantis, measuring about 2 meters high and 4 meters long. He cautioned that there were no records of its weaknesses or how to subdue it, indicating the need for a retreat. Jong Chansu suggested they could learn its capabilities by fighting it, but Seonwoo warned that being classified as unknown didn't mean it was weak. Instead, it could be stronger than the raptors in the area, likely at least 9th class. As the black mantis leaped and took flight, disappearing into the darkness, Jong Chansu ordered everyone to remain vigilant and adopt a combat formation. Kim Seonwoo expressed uncertainty about where the creature might strike from, but Jong Chansu urged calmness to avoid panic. In the midst of the tension, Seonwoo called for Hunter Eunjong to use her ability. She activated her reinforced vision, scanning the area for the mantis, but reported that she couldn't see it anywhere. Eunjong felt anxious as she searched, hoping the beast would reveal itself. The sound of increasing wing beats filled the air, signaling the black mantis's approach. Seonwoo recognized it as a sign that the creature was getting closer and thought that by tracking the noise, they might locate it. He hoped that if everyone stayed calm, they could effectively respond when the mantis became visible. However, the black mantis suddenly appeared behind him without him realizing it. Startled, Seonwoo realized that something had sneaked up behind him. He instinctively swung his dagger at the mantis, but instead of injuring the creature, he was thrown backward, landing some distance away. Eunjong, who was still using her ability to search for the mantis, noticed it hovering just above Seonwoo and quickly shouted a warning. Seonwoo looked up, but it was too late. The mantis launched an attack. In a split second, Jong Chansu rushed in to intercept the attack, telling Seonwoo to leave it to him and escape. Seonwoo acknowledged the order and retreated, while Jong Chansu swung his axe at the mantis, exclaiming, "Eat this!" Meanwhile, Seonwoo dashed back to his team members. Eunjong asked him how the situation was, and he replied that they were at a disadvantage due to the darkness. Kim Seonwoo expressed frustration, wishing for a light source to illuminate their surroundings. Seonwoo is in a tense situation, nervously reaching into his pocket to retrieve a glowing sphere. He throws it toward Jong Chansu, illuminating the area and revealing the threat of a menacing mantis hovering above. Jong Chansu, unfazed, taunts the creature, expressing his readiness to engage in combat. As Kim Seonwoo rushes forward to assist, Jong Chansu commands him to stop, warning against reckless action. He explains that the mantis is his target. Seonwoo internally acknowledges the logic behind this. In a confined space, swinging weapons could lead to accidental harm among allies. However, Seonwoo is acutely aware of the mantis's superiority over the raptor, noting its enhanced strength and cunning intelligence. The mantis is capable of deceiving its prey by manipulating sound to obscure its true location, raising doubts about Jong Chansu's ability to confront such a formidable opponent alone. Undeterred, Jong Chansu readies himself for battle, enveloping himself in a bluish aura that signifies a boost in his combat abilities. Seonwoo realizes that Jong Chansu has maximized his stats in preparation for the confrontation. As the battle intensifies, the mantis prepares to strike, signaling an imminent clash. Both the mantis and Jong Chansu launch themselves toward each other, each eager to land a decisive blow. When their attacks collide, Jong Chansu's axe meeting the mantis's powerful leg. The impact sends the mantis stumbling backwards slightly, showcasing the strength of Jong Chansu's initial strike. The mantis quickly regains its composure and retaliates, aiming a swift attack at Jong Chansu. Demonstrating agility and reflexes, Jong Chansu bends low to dodge the mantis's assault, which instead strikes the nearby wall with a resounding crash. Seizing the moment created by the mantis's missed attack, Jong Chansu charges forward with determination. In a dramatic maneuver, he leaps high into the air, raising his axe for a full-powered swing aimed directly at the mantis. However, The Mantis anticipates this move and successfully blocks the incoming attack, much to Zhang Shansu's surprise and frustration. This unexpected defense catches him off guard, as he had intended this to be his most powerful strike, leaving him momentarily flustered in the heat of battle. The battle between Zhang Shansu and the Mantis rages on, with Zhang Shansu feeling the pressure mount. He realizes that if he is pushed any further, defeat is inevitable. Just as he is strategizing, the Mantis takes advantage of his moment of hesitation, attacking his feet and inflicting a painful injury. Kim Seonwoo, witnessing Zhang Shansu's predicament, rushes in to help, swinging his sword at the Mantis in a desperate attempt to intervene. However, the Mantis deftly counters his attack, striking Kim Seonwoo instead and sending him crashing into a wall with tremendous force, rendering him unable to fight. This sudden turn of events causes alarm among Zhang Shansu's teammates, who shift their focus toward Kim Seonwoo in concern. Capitalizing on the distraction, the Mantis retracts the leg that injured Zhang Shansu's foot and launches another brutal attack. This time, its leg pierces through Zhang Shansu's chest, causing him to scream in agony as he drops his axe. Overwhelmed by pain and despair, he trembles and reflects, this is one-sided. To be beaten like this. In a final display of power, the Mantis throws him against the wall, leaving him unconscious on the ground. Now, with Zhang Shansu incapacitated, the Mantis turns its attention to the remaining party members, Seonwoo and Eunjong. Seonwoo's heart races as he realizes they are next. Observing the Mantis's strength and class, he deduces that it must be at least an 8th class creature, possibly even above 5th class, rendering their chances of victory bleak. He notes that the Mantis's primary weapons, its formidable front legs, are stronger than Damascus steel, and a direct confrontation would be suicidal. Desperately, Seonwoo scans for a weak spot on the Mantis, contemplating whether to target its head, neck, or chest. As the Mantis approaches him, its imposing presence fills him with dread, and the Mantis's overwhelming power intensifies the tension as he prepares to confront the beast. As Seonwoo continues to assess the situation, he notices a vulnerable connection between the Mantis's legs and its torso while it stands upright. Seizing the opportunity, he charges forward, convinced that this is the Mantis's weak spot. With all his strength, he strikes that point, but to his shock, nothing happens. Doubt creeps in as he realizes he must have hit it correctly, yet the Mantis remains unfazed. In retaliation, the Mantis swiftly strikes Seonwoo with one of its powerful front legs, sending him flying across the ground, where he crashes and coughs up blood. Before he can regain his composure, the Mantis looms over him, positioning its front legs beside his head. It begins to produce strange noises from its mouth, leaving Seonwoo bewildered. In that moment of vulnerability, he ponders whether the Mantis is crying or laughing at his misfortune. The realization hits him. If even Zhang Shansu, their experienced leader, couldn't defeat this creature, what hope did he have? A wave of despair washes over him as he confronts the stark reality that he may not survive this encounter. Suddenly, a strange noise echoes in the distance, capturing the Mantis's attention. To Seonwoo's surprise, he sees the Mantis begin to tremble. He wonders if the Mantis is reacting to the sound, and in an unexpected turn of events, the Mantis bolts away at full speed, leaving Seonwoo confused yet relieved to be alive. Eunjong approaches him with concern, asking if he is okay. Seonwoo's thoughts are consumed with questions about why the Mantis fled, wondering if it was because he was too weak. He recalls the odd beeping noise and wonders if it was a signaling call among demonic beasts. His thoughts are abruptly interrupted as Eunjong waves her hands in front of him, urging him to focus and asks, "Are you sure you're okay?" As Seonwoo regains his composure, he suddenly remembers an important detail, the barrier defense plan linked to the glowing bracelets they wear. He turns to Eunjong and asks, "Hunter Eunjong, do you know how long the bracelets have been shining?" She replies that she hasn't been paying attention. Realizing the implications, Seonwoo explains that the shining bracelets indicate the barrier is back up, signaling that they need to return immediately for safety. Eunjong expresses concern for their fallen teammates, Zhang Chansu and Kim Seonwoo, noting their serious injuries. After checking on Zhang Chansu, Seonwoo feels a sense of relief upon discovering that the Mantis's attack narrowly missed Zhang Shansu's heart, leaving him unconscious but alive. Determined to act quickly, Seonwoo hoists Zhang Chansu onto his shoulder and instructs Eunjong to assist Kim Seonwoo, emphasizing the urgency of getting them to the healers. Eunjong agrees, and they both understand the gravity of the situation. Seonwoo acknowledges the long journey ahead, filled with uncertainty but also gratitude for having survived the encounter. He reassures himself that they've made it this far and that reaching the barrier is now their primary goal. In the city, the barrier is restored, and a guard is busy counting the casualties from the recent battle. A second guard approaches and asks for the numbers. The first guard reports that there are 58 dead, 17 injured, and 11 missing out of 86 participants. The second guard remarks that the toll isn't as bad as it could have been. Their attention shifts as Seonwoo arrives, carrying the unconscious Jong Chansu, while Eun-jong supports the injured Kim Seong-ho. They've made it back to the city, barely surviving the ordeal. The following day, inside a medical room, Eun-jong's voice echoes as she scolds Jong Chansu, who is recovering but complaining about the food. She insists he eat to recover faster, threatening him with tough love and showing her frustration, making it clear she won't go easy on him, even as he is their team leader. Watching this interaction, Seonwoo and Kim Seong-ho silently thank their luck that they aren't in Jong Chansu's shoes. At that moment, a man in a black uniform knocks and enters the room. Kim Seong-ho, curious, inquire, "Who's that?" The man introduces himself as Bae Jin-seong, the associate director of the city management team. Jong Chansu, though still recovering, introduces himself in return, and they shake hands. Bae Jin-seong comments on Chansu's improved condition, giving credit to the healer's skills, which he proudly remarks are quite good. Jong Chansu asks why the city management team is there, and Bae Jin-seong responds that he can't discuss it in here. Jong Chansu clears the room, and as they walk down the corridor, Eun-jong wonders aloud what's happening. Kim Seong-ho speculates it's probably about a reward, perhaps even the qualification to live in the city, then jokes about how out of place he is in the wilderness. Meanwhile, Seonwoo grows suspicious, thinking it's odd for the city management's associate director to personally be involved with someone from the wilderness. Inside the room, Bae Jin-seong laughs, remarking on the improbable survival of the group, which Jong Chansu attributes to their skilled guide. The guide, notably a non-meta-human, accomplished something so impressive that Jong still finds it hard to believe. Bae acknowledges the success, but reveals a new dilemma. The group's unexpected survival has put them in a difficult position, which makes Jong visibly anxious. Later, as Jong explains why Bae Jin-seong came to him, tensions boil over. Kim Seong-ho, clearly frustrated, loses his temper and throws a chair against the wall. Seonwoo and Eun-jong, observing from the sidelines, appear sad, their expressions reflecting the weight of the situation. Jong Chansu tries to defuse Kim's anger, but Kim remains furious. He sarcastically questions why only 2 qualifications are being offered for survival, and more pointedly, why they are being given exclusively to that bastard Seonwoo and Eun-jong. Jong Chansu attempts to explain that the city management team made the decision regarding the qualifications, implying that the group has no say in the matter. However, Kim Seong-ho is enraged, accusing Chansu of lying and claiming that the management team knows nothing. He expresses his frustration that if Chansu wishes to give up his qualification, it's his choice, but Seong-ho believes he, as the second strongest person in the group, should have been given the opportunity. Seong-ho is particularly angry that a non-metahuman has been awarded the qualification instead of him, feeling slighted by the decision. Chansu, in an effort to control the situation, shouts back at Seong-ho, warning him to be careful with his words. As tensions flare, Seonwoo, trying to de-escalate the situation by saying that he's fine with the outcome. This only provokes Seong-ho further, who sarcastically remarks that Seonwoo is fine because he will become an urbanite. Chansu urges everyone to stop arguing, reminding Seong-ho that the decision has already been made and that there's no point in continuing the dispute. However, Seong-ho, visibly shaken and trembling with frustration, refuses to accept the outcome, believing it to be a scheme. He accuses Chansu of intentionally making this decision, suggesting that Chansu thinks Seonwoo and Eun-jong, who lack combat abilities, wouldn't survive in the dangerous Area 17. Chansu tries to calm him by revealing that, in exchange, both Seong-ho and Chansu will receive all the rewards, promising that there will be another opportunity for them. Kim Seong-ho, still furious, dismisses the value of the rewards compared to the importance of his life. He angrily states that surviving in the wilderness is a constant risk and storms out of the room. Afterward, Jong Chansu tries to reassure Seonwoo, acknowledging that Seonwoo saved them and affirming that he should accept the qualification without worry. Seonwoo agrees, expressing gratitude for the citizenship, which was the goal of his risky endeavor. He explains that since the decision is final, he has no intention of giving up what he risked his life for. However, Seonwoo is concerned about how Kim Seong-ho will handle the situation. Jong Chansu downplays the concern, believing that Seong-ho will calm down eventually, attributing his outburst to a hot temper. However, Seonwoo is not entirely convinced and remains uneasy, hoping that Chansu is right. Later, during the night, Seonwoo remains awake and on edge. As he observes his surroundings, he notices Kim Seonwoo quietly getting out of bed and approaching Jong Chansu, who is sound asleep. To Seonwoo's horror, Seonwoo unsheathes a dagger. Seonwoo, gripped with anxiety and disbelief, closes his eyes, hoping that what he's witnessing isn't real. The scene escalates into violent betrayal as Kim Seonwoo, driven by jealousy and anger, raises a dagger and stabs Jong Chansu, causing him to cough up blood. Shocked and in pain, Chansu grabs Seonwoo by the neck and questions how he could commit such an act of treachery. Seonwoo, filled with resentment, blames Chansu, pressing the dagger deeper and causing more blood to spill, as Chansu, overwhelmed by pain, loosens his grip. Meanwhile, Seonwoo, who had witnessed the tension, lies in his bed, drenched in nervous sweat, too anxious to intervene. As Kim Seonwoo finishes off Jong Chansu, he mutters his resentment about Seonwoo, who has no abilities, becoming an urbanite before him, declaring that he will never return to the wilderness. His desperation drives him to turn his attention to Seonwoo, believing that Seonwoo must have overheard everything. Seonwoo approaches Seonwoo's bed, pushing aside the cloth cover, ready to attack with the dagger. He blames Seonwoo for the situation and strikes down. However, when he uncovers the bed, Seonwoo realizes that Seonwoo is not there. Instead, he finds a stun grenade, an unfamiliar object to him. Confused, he barely has time to process before the grenade detonates, blinding him and rendering him unable to see. Seizing this critical moment, Seonwoo, who had been preparing for this, leaps onto Seonwoo's back and swiftly stabs him in the neck with a dagger. As Seonwoo heard a voice in his head encouraging him to kill, he realized it was the same voice from before, confirming it wasn't a hallucination. Distracted by the voice, Kim Seonwoo slammed him into the wall, and before Seonwoo could recover, Seonwoo grabbed him again, slamming him onto the bed with such force that the bed broke beneath him, causing Seonwoo to cough up blood. Seonwoo then pulled the dagger from his own neck, causing blood to pour from the wound, which he tried to stop with his hand. Seonwoo was shocked that Seonwoo was still alive after being stabbed in the neck. Seonwoo mocked Seonwoo, saying someone as unskilled as him could never kill a metahuman. However, Seonwoo soon began trembling and collapsed to the ground and died. Seeing this, Seonwoo started trembling himself. Then, a blue aura appeared from Seonwoo's right hand, leading him to believe he was awakening. Determined not to lose consciousness, Seonwoo knew he had to cover up the evidence. Still trembling, he picked up the dagger and threw the dagger out of the window. Just then, Seonwoo heard Jong Chansu's voice calling out to him. When he turned around, the scene abruptly shifted. Seonwoo now found himself in an interrogation room, seated in the center. Bae Jin-seong, the investigator, stood nearby, while city council members observing from behind protective glass. Bae Jin-seong began the interrogation by recounting the events. Early that morning, guards responded to a scream in the ward and discovered a murder scene. Upon arrival, they found only one witness and 3 injured individuals. The incident had occurred a few hours prior, during the night. Hunter Kim Seonwoo died at the scene from a ruptured carotid artery, and Hunter Jong Chansu later succumbed to blood loss from his severe injuries. The sole witness, Park Eun-jong, was cleared as a suspect after verifying his alibis and the evidence. Kim Seonwoo was found unconscious, suffering from blunt force injuries. Bae noted that everyone involved had been part of Team Marlin, hunters from the 17th District, and that Seonwoo, as the only surviving witness, was crucial to understanding what happened. Bae mentioned Seonwoo's 3 years working as a guide for Team Marlin and his 2 volunteer stints for city maintenance as someone labeled unskilled. After a slight correction, Bae referred to him as a normal civilian and confirmed with Seonwoo if everything stated was correct, to which Seonwoo agreed. Bae then asked directly what happened last night, to which Seonwoo responded, an assailant broke in. During the interrogation, someone behind the glass questioned Seonwoo's claim, expressing doubt about assailant. Seonwoo confirmed, explaining that someone had broken into the ward at night and attacked them. When asked if he remembered the assailant's appearance or clothing, Seonwoo replied that it was too dark to see. Bae Jin-seong expressed doubt, mentioning that the crime scene told a different story. However, the conversation was interrupted by a person behind the glass, identified as a senator, who advised Bae to dismiss the case as just an incident involving the wilderness people. The senator suggested recording it as an assailant's attack, as Seonwoo described, and increasing police patrols rather than making a big deal out of it. Though Bae Jin-seong agreed, he noted something odd about the incident. Despite the large amount of blood inside the ward, there were no tracks or bloody footprints outside. This inconsistency made Bae suspect that Seonwoo might be giving a false testimony to cover up his own crimes. Seonwoo addresses the suspicion against him, asking if he can speak since he's now considered a suspect. He points out that, as a normal civilian without abilities, it's highly unlikely he could have taken on two metahumans, particularly ones with physical reinforcement powers. He questions the logic behind such an accusation, noting that he was on the verge of qualifying for urbanite status after completing the mission, so why would he risk everything by attempting to kill two metahumans? Bae Jinseong agrees, stating that from a logical standpoint, it would be impossible for Seonwoo to have killed them. Seonwoo then emphasizes the absurdity of him jeopardizing his newly gained qualification for such a foolish act. Bae Jinseong concurs that Seonwoo's defense makes sense, explaining that Team Marlin, which had just barely earned urbanite qualifications, could have been attacked by another metahuman seeking citizenship. He also highlights that evidence at the scene points to a fierce battle, and if Seonwoo, a non-metahuman, were the attacker, he would have sustained more severe injuries than the blunt force trauma he suffered. Seonwoo internally reflects that he indeed took a heavy beating, but only survived because of his recent awakening. The senator present during the interrogation urges them to conclude the case based on the facts. However, Bae Jinseong pauses and adds that everything he has said hinges on the assumption that Seonwoo is still a non-metahuman. The senator, curious about Bae Jinseong's pause, asks, "Yes, but what about it?" In response, Bae Jinseong calls for a witness to enter, surprising Seonwoo. Confused and shocked, Seonwoo wonders who could be the witness, as only the members of Team Marlin should know about him. His shock deepens when the witness is revealed to be the girl he had encountered at a shop just days ago, to whom he had returned an entry card. Bae Jinseong asks her to introduce herself, and she reveals her identity. "I'm Mari, a researcher from the City Research Development Team." Bae Jinseong questions Mari about her role. She explains that she works in the City Research Development Team, assessing the qualities of metahumans and assigning them tasks based on their abilities. When asked how she determines their abilities, Mari reveals that she has the power to sense signs of metahuman traits. Bae Jinseong brings her in specifically because of this ability, aiming to assess whether Seonwoo, who claims to be a non-metahuman, might have recently awakened powers. Bae Jinseong suggests that while Seonwoo was a non-metahuman up until a certain point, there are cases where people awaken metahuman abilities later in life. If Seonwoo had gained such powers during the mission, he would become a prime suspect in the incident. Mari, now standing in front of Seonwoo, studies his nervous face. She recalls a recent encounter with him, where she was surprised, having sensed signs of a metahuman in him. Bae Jinseong then asks Mari to confirm if Seonwoo is now a metahuman. Mari asks Seonwoo to give her his hands, so she can check for metahuman qualities. As he complies, Seonwoo closes his eyes and reflects on the traumatic events that occurred after Jong Chansu called for him. He recalls rushing to Jong's bedside, where Jong, gravely injured, urged him to run away before Kim Seong-hoo could kill him. Seonwoo realizes that even in his critical state, Jong was more concerned about Seonwoo's safety than his own, even as he lay dying before Seonwoo's eyes. Suddenly, a black aura emanates from Jong Chansu's body and rushes into Seonwoo before he can fully comprehend what is happening. Overwhelmed, Seonwoo falls to his knees, recognizing the sensation as similar to what he experienced during his initial awakening. He wonders if he is awakening again, but the intensity feels even stronger. As the dark energy fills him, he screams in agony and collapses, losing consciousness. His introspection is abruptly interrupted when Mari releases his hands and informs Bae Jinseong that she has completed her assessment. Bae Jinseong, eager for the results, prompts her to share her findings. To Seonwoo's shock, Mari declares that he is not a metahuman, confirming that he is a normal person. Bae Jinseong expresses surprise at this conclusion, questioning Mari to ensure she is certain. However, internally, Seonwoo feels a sense of dread and suspicion. He thinks to himself that Mari must have realized he has awakened and wonders about her true intentions, questioning what she might be scheming. The senator concludes that the results of Mari's assessment are clear and suggests sending her back. Bae Jinseong agrees, stating they have completed the verification process. The senator then shifts the focus to the murder case, emphasizing that someone who was disqualified from becoming a citizen attempted to kill a qualified candidate. He orders an investigation into all the metahumans from the raiding squad who did not obtain citizenship, marking them as suspects and instructing Bae Jinseong to check their alibis. Bae Jinseong then raises the question of what to do with Kim Seonwoo. Seonwoo interrupts, stating that he will give up his citizenship and return to the wilderness. Bae Jinseong acknowledges that the city council wouldn't oppose his decision, but questions why he has chosen this path. Seonwoo explains that he believes team leader Jong Chon-soo and Hunter Eun-jong deserve the citizenship instead. Bae Jinseong responds that Seonwoo has worked hard to obtain his citizenship and warns him that if he rejects it now, he will have to endure the lengthy process to regain it in the future. He presses Seonwoo for the real reason behind his decision to relinquish his citizenship and go back to the wilderness. Seonwoo clarifies that, given the circumstances surrounding the citizenship, he doesn't want to be seen as a murder suspect for killing colleagues he has endured 3 years with. He expresses his fear of merely surviving to become a target for the true culprit still at large. The senator agrees with Seonwoo's reasoning, declaring it logical and without further suspicions, allowing Seonwoo to leave. After saying goodbye to Hunter Eun-jong, Seonwoo begins to walk away, but he is called back by Mari, who approaches him. She comments on his fast walking, expressing relief that they didn't discover he is a metahuman and that he could escape the city. Seonwoo realizes that Mari has been aware of his true nature all along. He questions why she didn't reveal this during the trial, if she had ulterior motives. Mari responds, stating that she does not believe he intentionally harmed his colleague, suggesting that he was caught in an unavoidable situation. When Seonwoo presses her on why she kept silent, Mari reveals her interest in his abilities. She explains that what she senses from him is unique and exciting compared to other metahumans, indicating that he gives off a different kind of energy. This revelation leaves Seonwoo puzzled as he contemplates her words, unsure of what she means. Well guys, that's the end of the video. If you like this video, comment part 2 in the comment section. Also, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and like the video. Thank you for watching,